Well, Mississippi State's roster looks solid on paper, but there's one spot that could become a real problem. We're breaking down the biggest hole in the lineup, why it matters, and what it could mean for the Bulldogs this season.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Jaron Spor, National College Football Writer at Athlon Sports. That's Landon McBride. We've got a full show for you today. We're going to kind of talk about the holes in the baseball roster that we still see that are there, because pretty much transfer portal stuff is wrapped up at this point. Although there is, obviously, it's a never-ending cycle, but for the most part, it's wrapped up. Then we're going to kind of give our, even though summer workouts have begun, we just officially on the 23rd hit the 2-month mark before the start of the college football season. Not Mississippi State, but week 0 will start on the 23rd of August. So we're going to kind of give our football outlook now that the transfer portal cycle is pretty much, again, done for football. And then we'll finish it with next up in Starkville like we do every single Friday. But let's get into the baseball side of things. Oh, also, I actually have good Wi-Fi today, so we can talk about that. Yeah, I'm actually back home, so we're good there. So hopefully it sounds a lot better. But let's get in the baseball side of things. Landon, obviously they did amazing work in the transfer portal. Yes, they have the number one class. I can't remember which site that was now that we recited that. Yeah, I can't remember which one it was. But anyways, they were the number one class. They had the number 3 recruiting class last I checked. So a lot of good things have happened. But there obviously were some negatives still. Becker went back to Virginia. Henry Ford went to Tennessee. So they missed out on some big-time prospects as well. But what do you think are what is the biggest hole? Or maybe there's multiple holes.
To me, the biggest hole, and this one is kind of contingent on, how things shake out, but I think it's shortstop. I mean, Ryder Woodson, he's probably your shortstop right now, and that he has played there 6 games in college. Mm-hmm. I mean, solid bat. He looks solid from what we've seen, but that's not a lot of experience. Obviously, JoJo Parker is a shortstop, but most likely going to go in the top 10 of the draft and will not make his way to Starkville, which if you have those 2 manning shortstop, I don't think it's whole. But right now, with it just being Woodson and then, other guys who have played their 2 games, 3 games, things like that, they can probably do it. If they've done it in the college, they can do it. It's just there's not a lot of track record there.
Yeah, and that was a good one. I kind of went back and forth on which ones I wanted to do, but I do want to touch on that because your shortstop was kind of my infield hole that I was going to talk about, because it's not just shortstop like you mentioned, although that is the big one. But looking at their transfer portal class, again, it was a great class. But let's see, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 players they signed. Only, 2 of them play infield, and only one of them, like you mentioned, Ryder Woodson, has played it full time. Mm-hmm. Sean Jones is a utility player, did play some second base, but mainly played in the outfield, only played in 26 games, did make 15 starts. So we'll see where he ends up playing. Blake Bevis from Ball State was an outfielder, but also played some first base. So you have 3 guys that were in the infield. And we kind of talked about it jokingly when all these new transfer portal commits were coming in. Like, who are they going to have to play infield? Because it was like outfield, pitcher, outfield, pitcher. And so that's kind of where my concern is, the infield. Obviously, you return some guys, and that's going to be great. But you mentioned shortstop, and that's probably the biggest one of the entire infield. But there are definitely question marks at every spot. But I ultimately went with more starting pitching, but more importantly, the ace pitching. Okay. And I've just talked about it so much that I just had to go with that. Again, Evan showed a lot of things at the end of the year. He might be that guy. Avos Tomas has a ton of potential. Mm-hmm. He could be that guy. There's several others that could step up. Ben Davis could take that step to now being a starting pitcher, kind of like we saw Pico eventually become. there's so many. McPherson, another one. Again, a ton of potential. Could take that step. There are so many question marks because while I am optimistic that some of these guys will take that step and will be really good pitchers, they haven't done it yet.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like shortstop, same thing. I mean, we know we're good in the outfield. We've got a million outfielders. The only problem is you can play 3.
Right.
And we're good at the corner infield spots too. It's kind of that it's really shortstop and pitcher. And you feel good about catcher, but again, you have a guy taking a step up from a lower level, and Jackson Owen, who hadn't played much at Mississippi State as well. So, I mean,
Right.
if you wanted to, you could say that's it. I mean, if someone wanted to really play devil's advocate, you could throw that in there, but I think they're solid. It's just kind of the same thing where we're at. We don't have guys who have done it before at this level.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned catcher because, again, Jackson Owen, like you mentioned, hasn't played a ton, but was really good at the junior college level. You obviously bring in Kevin Malewski from Seton Hall, who had a really good, strong season hitting last season, so we'll see what happens there. But you mentioned the outfield. That is definitely the strength of the team because
and corner infield.
Yeah. I mean, not including the guys they have returning. James Nunnally is and Vitus Valencias and Aiden Teal. All 3 of those guys might be your starters, and those all came from the transfer portal. Blake Bevis was also an outfielder in your transfer portal class, and a coveted one. And again, that's not including the guys that are returning. Obviously, we know third base is solid with Ace Reese back. So there are some positions that are still strong, but there's just it's not that we don't think someone can step up and be really good. It's just you have to see it. I want to see it.
Yes.
I'm a guy that I will wait and see. I love hyping stuff up, but I still want to wait and see it. Again, I think Tomas is going to be an incredible pitcher at Mississippi State. I have to see it.
Right. And honestly, when we're sitting here and our holes are hopefully one of these very good pitchers gets better, and hopefully this guy who's played well but not played a ton of shortstop is good at shortstop. When those are your 2 holes, you're in a very good place when it's, I don't even know how many months before they even start practice.
Yeah. No, they're in a good spot.
And on the transfer portal note, they did add another pitcher early Thursday, Brendan Sweeney from South Carolina. Super high ERA. It's not real.
It's like 8-something.
8.5.
Yeah.
But he did have the 34 strikeouts in 25 innings. So maybe it's a control issue and he's just a little wild and walks some people and then gives up one big hit. But hey, if you can strike out 34 people in 25 innings, you have the stuff. You just have to harness it.
And South Carolina wasn't great either at baseball.
So that could be
some of that could just be the team isn't very good. But but yeah, I mean it's another arm and it's another arm with experience. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But yeah, I mean, like you said, they're in a really good spot, I think, roster wise, because I feel like Henry Ford and Becker would have basically made their basically almost be no holes. Obviously, pitching would have still been my hole.
I mean,
that would have really been the
scoring 12 runs a game. So
right. And the pitching is only would have been the only hole, and it's based off of they could be that, but we haven't seen it yet. Yeah. So like it's not like this great hole or anything. Like again, we've said it many times. We are very optimistic about the season. We think this is a team that should make a super regional.
Yes.
Maybe even host a regional, get to a super regional. Maybe you host a super regional. That's how good this team can be. I would. What do you think? I think they're top 10 preseason.
I don't want
to 15.
I mean, they're definitely top 10. I think they might be higher than that. It just
could.
I mean, because some of it's going to be. I mean, you look at the roster. There's like we mentioned, the holes are maybe they have an ace and maybe they have a shortstop. And those are your holes,
right?
And you have one of, if not the best coaches in college baseball. I mean,
I think they'll get a bump for that too with Brian O'Connor there.
I mean, 7 maybe. Maybe I'm being a little over optimistic here, but that's kind of in that 6, 7, 8, 9 range is where I'm thinking.
Which that would be kind of in the hosting a super regional range, at the end of the year, obviously. So you have to have a good season and get to that. But there's a lot to like for this Mississippi State roster. The staff, the coaching staff, Brian O'Connor leading it, obviously did a great job. Justin Parker did an incredible job.
Yes.
we kind of mentioned in the it was in the podcast right after O'Connor got hired where we talked about what could go wrong. If things went wrong, this would be why they went wrong. And it wasn't things that we thought would happen. It's just we had to bring out possibilities. One of those was transfer portal concerns, just because Brian O'Connor didn't have to do it much because he didn't have the backing at Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And we said we don't think that's going to be an issue because he will have the backing. Well, this first offseason showed that. Now, with that being said, a lot of the guys that came in were from Virginia, so it wasn't like a lot of work he had to do. And when you bring in a new coach, a lot of your players leave, a lot of his players want to follow. Like, it's pretty easy to put together a pretty good class, but to put together the top class isn't easy, and that's what he's done.
Right. Yeah, he's done great so far. Hopefully, this is not the only great transfer portal class he brings in. Hopefully, in the future, they're much smaller, and it's because he's built up a program here that is just churning out high-end talent, and he's just getting 2 or 3 guys to plug the holes of the guys who left where the young guys aren't quite ready yet. But no, he's killed that so far.
Yeah, for sure. All right, coming up next, we're going to talk about the football season and give our outlook now that summer football has started to kick off. We'll do that. That's coming up next. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's a game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. Now, Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. I know several people that have used Gametime right at the last minute to buy tickets. They love it. And they love that, again, last-minute deals, ticket prices come down. Usually ticket prices on other sites go up right before the game starts. That's not how it is on Gametime. I've used Gametime's not last-minute stuff, but I have used them just because I don't do a lot of last-minute buying. If I have decided previously I'm not going, I just don't go. But if I'm buying tickets beforehand, I've used Gametime, and they are incredible. And I love that you get to see where your seat is because that really helps the experience. It takes the guesswork out of it. But as I mentioned, take the guesswork out of buying your tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, so thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Landon, so transfer portal for football is pretty much closed. Summer workouts are going on. We got SEC Media Days in just a few weeks, and then it's really getting into fall ball at that point, this the last minutes of practice and stuff like that. Has your opinion changed on the team?
Yes, but not enough that I think it's going to greatly affect the record. I do think the work that was done on the offensive line is going to make this team better, but I don't know, because of how tough the schedule is, which we have been over many times, just how insane this schedule is. I don't know if it's enough to translate to more wins, but I do think we're going to see better football.
Okay, so schedule prediction. What are you going with, right? Or record prediction right now?
We'll stick with 4 wins. Granted, I don't know who that 4th win is, but I'm sitting at 4.
Okay, so I have changed a little bit.
Okay.
Before we got to this point in the spring, I was sitting at with you. 4 wins, not sure who that 4th one is, kind of thing, but I think they could get to 4 wins. I'm all in on 4 wins now. Okay. I think it's definitely they're going to get the 4th win. And I think that win is going to be Arkansas. Now, the reason why I've changed my opinion is I'm starting to lean towards 5 wins because I think Tennessee is a real winnable game now. Just the more I've seen about Tennessee and obviously the Nico situation, and I've written several stories at Athlon about Tennessee. They are losing a ton this year, going into this year. Obviously, it helps Tennessee that game is it helps Mississippi State that game's early in the year because it's the 5th game of the year. Yeah, it's 5th game of the year. Now, they have a lot returning, or they have several guys returning defensively. One of those guys is a star corner who tore his ACL in January. So
Yeah.
we'll see if he's back and healthy and rolling
Right.
at that point. He's supposed to be back, but we'll see. But you lose your quarterback. Dylan Sampson was what made the engine go last year. He's
Mhm.
gone, the running back. They lost their top 3 or 4 wide receivers.
Yep.
They lost, I believe, their top tight end. They lost 4 out of their 5 starters on a really good offensive line.
Mhm.
This is I'm not as confident on Tennessee as some people are. And that game is in Starkville. Again, it's the same type of offenses for both teams. So it's not like the defense for Mississippi State is going to be surprised by what they see. They see it every day in practice. I'm not fully there. Ask me right before the start of the season, but I'm getting really close to say 5.
Okay, so you're almost at 5. But when we talked about this before, you had mentioned you thought we could beat Missouri.
Yeah,
so
Missouri's another
are
one
you
too.
now telling me we might be bowling?
Missouri's a good one too. The thing, and I said this back then, the only thing that worries me about the Missouri game is it's at Missouri.
Yeah.
Well, I should say there's 2 things. It's also at the end of the year. It's the second to last game. So by that point, all Missouri's issues should be at least corrected by that point.
Well, they've completely fallen apart.
And that's possible too. But at least by that point, they should have, obviously they should have figured out their quarterback situation. Yeah. Is that the right quarterback? That kind of stuff, because they're replacing their 2 top wide receivers. They should have an answer there at that point.
Right.
They've recruited really well, and I know Tennessee has as well. But I think the reason why I went with Tennessee over Missouri was, 1, Tennessee game's at home. 2, it's early in the season. I don't know if they have enough time to correct some stuff that early.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I get where you're coming with that. And like we've also mentioned, we don't really know what Arizona State is because their entire offense was scatterboo. So
right. And the crazy thing is Arizona State is number 8 in the country in returning production. So they return.
Honestly,
they might be 6 or something. Anyways, they returned a ton, but they lost the biggest piece.
Yeah. So I don't know what we're doing here. We've all of a sudden gone from, at the beginning of the year, maybe they win 3 games, to now we're sitting here talking ourselves into possibly 5 with an outside chance at 6. I mean,
yeah. And also the end of the year.
It's that time of year. It's that time of year.
It is. And at the end of the year, you get the Egg Bowl at home. And again, I know Ole Miss has been really good recently, and they've kind of dominated the rivalry. But Ole Miss, last year was probably the most talented roster Ole Miss has had in a long time. And you lost 26-14 on the road. It wasn't like it was a blowout. It was a close game, and you narrowly lost that game at the road. And we know how bad Mississippi State was last year. Now that game's obviously at home. It's not going to be as talented Ole Miss team. So there's a lot of games that could go Mississippi State's way. And next thing you know, they are a 5-win team. If they get 4 wins, is obviously a really successful season, especially because they won 2 last year. If they get to 5 or even 6, I think the recruiting's going to really pick up at that point.
I do too. And that's kind of what I was saying with, I don't know if it changes yet. Because now I feel confident in 4 wins. But I think football, the overall football team is better now, to a point that maybe it's one you lost close now flips to a win. It puts you in position for those weird games that things just break your way and you steal 1 or 2 here or there. So I'm not quite ready to jump on 5 yet, but I think it's there. I'm going to, we got to see what happens. Continue progression with Shapen and these receivers and just kind of how that all works together. But it seems like it's going in the right direction.
Here, let's do this. This is kind of spontaneous, but I kind of want to do it.
Let's go.
We'll go through it quick, but I want to know your confidence meter, 1 through 5, 5 being the best. And we're going to go through each game that you are confident they could win that game. That doesn't mean, for those at home, that doesn't mean, if Landon says he's a 3 out of 5, that doesn't mean he's picking them to win that game. It's just he's confident they could be in that game. So Southern Miss to start the year on the road.
5 is the best?
Yeah.
Yeah, 5.
I would say 5. Arizona State.
3.
I was going to go 3 also. Alcorn State.
5.
5. Northern Illinois.
5.
I'll go 4 just because they beat Notre Dame last year on the road. But Tennessee.
3.
I'm at a 3 now with that one. Texas A&M on the road.
2.
I also was going to. Florida.
1. I just think that one's going to be bad.
Florida on the road, and that's a lot of people are very high on Florida. It sounds like you are as well. I'm going 3 because I'm not sold on Florida yet. I want to see Billy Napier do it again.
I'm not sold on Florida. I'm not sold on going into the swamp, though.
That's fair.
That's more.
I just think coming off, that's after a bye week. I think it could be something.
Well, after bye week, change that to a 2.
Okay. Texas at home.
2.
I'll go 1. I don't think they can beat Texas.
I mean, it's at home. Weird things happen. Seen
right.
happen before.
Arkansas on the road.
4.
I'm at a 4 now. Georgia at home.
1.
Yeah. Missouri on the road.
3.
I'll go 3. And then Ole Miss to end the season at home. This is on Black Friday, coming off a bye week.
I'm going 4.
And I was going to go 3. So there's some confidence there for sure. And we'll see what ends up happening. Obviously, early in the season, we'll know pretty quick if they are able to compete in those games. So we'll have a better outlook. All right, coming up next, we're going to preview what we're looking forward to this weekend in our Next Up in Starkville segment. Don't go anywhere. All right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Landon, what are you looking forward to the most?
Well, I don't think I can use baseball transfer portal anymore, so I had to go somewhere different. Just watching to see if any more commitments come out of the big football visit last weekend. You know, there's a couple guys
Was it 7, 8?
I think we did it 7 from the actual visit. 8
and Jax was 8.
So we'll see if any more come. I know there's a bunch of guys that have their commitment dates a little bit farther out.
Yeah. So
obviously those guys aren't involved. But I mean, you look at, you know, who knows how accurate this stuff is when you go to like 24/7 and you see like Warm. There's a lot of guys who have been here recently who are down to like 2 or 3 schools that it says Warm. We've heard about possible silent commits. So maybe some of these guys are hanging out there and something will pop.
Yeah, and there's several that are next week, like on Thursday, Friday. I think there might even be one on Tuesday. I'd have to go look and see who that is. So that would be what I'm looking forward to the most, obviously.
July 4th is next week. Sorry, I am.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's already here. And
days are forward.
Yeah, and we got some that are committing that day. This weekend's going to be big. Now, those guys aren't – I'm not saying big in terms of those guys are coming into town. They're not. But this is kind of when you're making your last pitches, your last sales pitches. These players are going to take their time to separate and like meet with their family and go over everything. But this is the time for the coaches, all the coaches that are recruiting them. They're making their last pitches, and the NIL initiative, our collectives, are also making their last pitches.
Yeah,
all this is negotiations are going on and things like that. And so I'm just intrigued to see if anything pops this weekend, and if it does, obviously that's great momentum. But since we won't do Next Up in Starkville again until next Friday, when a lot of these would have already announced, that's kind of what I'm looking forward to during the week is just what other ones pop, because there's some big ones next week. I think TJ White is probably the biggest one, but I think he's July 4th is his announcement though. So
I believe so as well.
Yeah. No, actually he's July 1st. So he's the one on Tuesday that I was thinking of. Okay, so that's the big one. We'll know that answer before we do Next Up in Starkville next week. So that's the big one to look out for.
What we've learned here is we're not good at dates.
Yeah,
so,
they all run together. And at one point there was I feel like 6 guys that announced their commitments within 2-hour span, and they're all next week or something like that.
Yeah. So I mean, we're going to be getting a bunch of names flying in. And that will probably be some that are on the radar that have not announced a commitment, that either commit to Mississippi State or commit somewhere else. So they're off the table that, we're watching as well. So yeah, these next 2 weeks are really the big ones for kind of outside of those stragglers, because there's always a few that hold out until football season of these bigger names. But I mean, these next 2-3 weeks is really where it's all done.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, TJ White's a top 80 linebacker in the country. I will say he's trending heavily to Tennessee, so it's probably not going in Mississippi State's favor. He also posted something, and it was basically just generic, I had fun at Mississippi State. My family and I had fun at Mississippi State. And that was his only thing he said. So it's probably not going to go that way.
It was just a picture of him with his family. It wasn't even
I think it was, I think they were doing football stuff, but it was just the family. Yeah. So probably not coming to Mississippi State, but there's just a lot of stuff to look forward to next weekend. So it'll be exciting. But Thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen today. For your second listen, check out The Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find The Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm Jaron. Check out my work over on Athlon Sports. That's Landon. Follow us, Locked On Mississippi State. We're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. We're back to posting daily videos. We should be back later today. If not, we'll definitely get back next week now that I'm back in town.
It's a weird week.
Yes, it was a weird week. Also on YouTube, we post a comment on every single YouTube video. We love your feedback and interacting with you guys on that. Now that I'm back, I can also check that more often and respond, but Landon has been doing a lot of that responding. And then also we post a question on our poll that we love your feedback on as well. This was actually a really good one, the one we did yesterday. Mm-hmm. It was, how important do you think early commitments are in college football recruiting? 31% said very important. They set the tone for future recruits. 31% also said somewhat important, but things can change quickly. 25% says not important as many players change their minds, and 13% said it depends on the player's loyalty and the school's performance. So very hotly contested.
Oh yeah.
By the way, I don't think I did this one for yesterday. I think I forgot, but our poll question from the day before was, how do you feel about Davis Wade Stadium being ranked as the 25th toughest place to play? 85% said it's proud. It's a testament to our passionate fan base. 11% said surprised. I thought it would be ranked higher. And 4% said indifferent. Rankings don't matter as much as the game day experience. So,
fair.
A lot of good results right there. So we'll have another post out there, another poll. Again, feedback on that, we greatly appreciate it. But until next time, have a great weekend, and Hail State.
Hail State.